Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to Being on Stage, the only podcast that gives you motivation, inspiration, and confidence to be better on stage. No matter how you entertain, sing, dance, band, comedian, public speaking, MC, drag, burlesque, performance art, or street performer, this is the show for you. Hey rock stars, Reggie Dawson, host of the Being on Stage podcast. I used to work so hard at perfecting what I was doing on stage. As a matter of fact, seeking out that perfection, it ended up holding me back a little bit because it was never good enough. I felt like it was never quite perfect enough for this contest or that contest, or I wasn't good enough for, to reach that next level or to contact that venue or to perform in the bigger city. I just was never good enough because I was always striving for perfection. And when I took a step back and I really analyzed and really took a look at what I was doing, I was holding myself back. That drive and that push for perfection, it was crushing my dreams. So I decided that there is no such thing as perfect. There is absolutely no such thing as perfection when it comes to performing. I'm going to tell you why. Perfect means there is no flaws. Perfect means that there is no mistakes. Perfect also means that it's boring, because the flaws and the mistakes and the little quirks that make it unique and that make it ours, that's what makes it a performance, and that's what creates a connection with the audience. The audience doesn't seek perfection when they come to these shows. If you are trying to be perfect, then, a contest, a pageant, maybe that's more where perfection lies. But when we're looking at a performance for your audience isn't looking for perfection. Most of the time, they don't even know what perfection is when it comes to your talent. Have you ever watched, you watch the Olympics? This is a perfect example. You watch the Olympics and you see the ice skaters and the gymnasts, right? They are judged on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay? So you see these ice skaters, and to you, the routine is like amazing, it's astonishing, it's perfect. It seems perfect. But these judges, they find little tiny details to just like tick away at those points. I remember when I was younger, I saw a gymnast actually, and I don't remember her name, and I don't even know if it was the Olympics or if it was just like the world contest or the nationals, or not the point. But I saw a gymnast, and she did a floor routine, and I mean, her flips were great, her stances are great, she didn't falter, she looked incredible. I mean, to me, perfect. And she got like an 8.6 or something, like an 8.6. And in gymnastics, like below a 9 is just, you might as well have not even showed up. Is kind of how it's looked at. When you see their faces, when they get like an 8.6, they're crushed, like their dreams just got crumbled all over the ground and walked on by everybody that walked through the doors to come see them. But I think that we do that to ourselves when we're performing, is we find these little details that just chip away at our points and our score, and we have to stop, because we can't put that much pressure on ourselves. Like, do you see these people at 8.6 and they're crushed, they're crying, they're so embarrassed. Sometimes I've seen them hide their face when they get that low. It's depressing to watch these young people, actually, who are incredibly talented and did put on an amazing show. And I know that when you're in the Olympics, it's more about the technique and it is about the perfection. I get that. But what I'm getting at is, to the untrained eye, which is our audience is not trained to seek out our imperfections. Our audience is trained to seek out that connection that we create to them. And that's why I get up on my soapbox all the time talking about how you have to connect with your audience and you have to engage with your audience and make eye contact with them and kind of give that energy to pull them into your show a little bit. And it's, that exchange of energy. You give to them, they give to you. It's a back and forth. I talk about this all the time. I know it drives me crazy too. But they don't crave perfection. They crave that connection, that energy, that back and forth flow. And when we strive so hard for perfection, the only people that we're actually hurting, the only people that are really judging us on that level is ourselves. And if anyone else is judging you on that level, I mean, tell them to go fly a kite. Because really, anyone who's going to judge you on that level, most of the time, they're not even going to go out there and do it. Now, if you have a coach who's coaching you on certain aspects of your show, like maybe you are an acrobat and you do have to do some more strenuous technical choreography. And I get that. You want it to be perfect. 1, for the sake of the show. 2, for the sake of your flow and the routine. And 3, to be safe, really. But perfecting the whole show and chipping away at those little details and allowing those little details to just kind of eat away at you and kind of like your internal score is ultimately, it's going to make you hate what you do. It's going to, and that's a strong word, and yet that takes years to get to that point. But eventually, if you keep doing this to yourself and you keep judging yourself more harsh than anybody else is judging you, including your coach, if you continue to judge yourself at such a level that is really impossible to meet, you're going to start to feel that way. You're going to start to feel like it's impossible to be perfect. And when you feel like it's impossible to be perfect, and that's your driving force is perfection, you're eventually going to give up on performing. And that is absolutely something you should not do. And that's why I say perfection does not exist in performance. It can't exist. Perfection and art can never exist at the same time. Because our flaws, our mistakes, our imperfections is what makes us unique. And that unique quality is what is put into our art. And our art is performance. If our performance didn't have flaws, and if we made no mistakes, and we didn't falter at all, it would be boring. It would look like a video because there's no connection to a video. There's no connection to technology. But when you're live and you have that connection, you can fall on your ass and nobody's going to give a crap because you have that connection and you're able to shake it off and move forward and be successful on stage by putting yourself out there, mistakes and all. When I say leave your legacy on stage, when I say that you have to be yourself on stage, that includes your imperfections. That includes the parts of you that, guess what, aren't perfect. Because none of us are perfect. Because perfect doesn't exist. Art is, and what we do is art. I say that time and time again. Performance art is still art. There's a creative process that goes into it, and something beautiful comes out of it. And that's really what art is there's a creative process that creates something beautiful. Our beauty is the performance. And I talked about expectations a few episodes back. It's called Expectations Kill Dreams. And that's what perfection is. Perfection is a form of expectations, and it's going to kill you. Not kill you literally, but it's going to kill your soul. And you need your soul to perform. Instead of focusing on perfection, instead of focusing on trying to make everything just right and trying to create this amazingly perfect show, create connections, create emotions, create energy for your audience. You're going to have more fun on stage creating moments and memories and connections than you are creating perfection. You're going to have a better reaction from the audience when you're creating moments and connections and emotions than when you're creating perfection. An audience at the end of a perfect show, they're going to clap, they're going to cheer, but they're not even going to remember your name because there was no connection. Because when you're focused so hard on perfect, so hard on those little tiny details that are going to make it perfect, you're not focusing on what really matters when you're on that stage, and that's your audience. And the minute you lose focus on your audience, your show might as well be over. Your audience is not going to pay attention to you if you're not paying attention to them. That's how it works. It's a conversation. A performance is a conversation between the performer and the audience. And if you're not talking to them, they're not going to pay attention to you. It's like in a conversation. You ever walk up to someone and just stand there? If you're not talking to them, they're going to ignore you and walk away. And that's the same thing with a performance. If you're ignoring your audience and you're so focused on those little details in your performance, you're not looking at them, your eyes are closed because you're so intently focused, you're staring up into the spotlights, whatever you're doing to close yourself off to create that perfection, stop. Make the mistakes. Fall down. Allow the flaws to come out. Allow yourself to not be perfect. And then when it's all over, allow yourself to get over it. because you don't need to hold yourself accountable for those things. The mistakes happen. Now, this doesn't give you an excuse to not rehearse. You still very much have to rehearse. You can't go out there and figure, well, if I make a mistake, it is what it is. I'll just get over it. That's not the point of this episode. The point of this episode is, while you're working and while you're rehearsing, work on the things that you can work on, but it does not have to be perfect to be put on stage. And once you're on stage, if it's not perfect and the mistakes happen and it is flawed, that's okay. Perfection cannot exist at the same time as your art. If you're so focused on perfection and not on the art and the emotion that goes into it, you might as well be a ballerina in a box. You know, those musical boxes you wind up and the little ballerina just spins in a circle? It's fun to watch for like the first 20 seconds, but then after a while it's like, all right, I'm done. Close the box. That's what your performance becomes when you're so focused on perfection. It becomes a music box. And you don't want to be a music box, because as cute as they only are cute and entertaining for a very short period of time. And your performance is beyond that. Your performance is an extension of you. And my friend, you're not perfect. You can't be perfect. Perfection cannot exist if you're an artist. There's no such thing as perfection on stage. You've got to stop chasing perfection and start putting yourself out there as you are, who you are, because again, you are not perfect, and that's okay. Nobody wants you to be. So stop trying to be perfect and just try being you on stage. Keep on shining.